Work 3 days and then no more. That's just enough to keep a good man sore. What's the matter, operator, that you don't sign? Put your name or your number down on a dotted line.
Anna Maria Taigi was a saint who died on June 9th of 1837. She never wrote anything about 3 days of darkness. Her name was never associated with the prophecy until someone wrote a letter 34 years later, in October of 1871, give or take a week or so, to the Journal of Brussels, which was a publication from Brussels, Belgium. So, several years after her death, someone wrote a letter saying that they heard about it from her spiritual director, who had also passed away by that time. So this by itself makes the whole thing extremely questionable. This letter in the journal was then reported by the press throughout the world. There was panic created among Catholics because the letter apparently said that the 3 days of darkness would occur during the last 3 days of February of 1872, which was just a few months away. I don't have a copy of the original article in the Journal of Brussels, but there are several articles that I found in newspaper archives reporting on the letter in the journal and the events following its publication. This is the first one that appeared, but there were several more appearing a few days after this one. Most of our readers have probably heard of the prophecy, which has been current for some years past, of a 3 days miraculous darkness, similar to the one of the Egyptian plagues, wherewith God will appall and chastise a guilty and rebellious world. But we are not sure whether it is generally known that the authority on which it rests is that of no less a person than the venerable Anna Maria Taigi, an authority which, combined with the remarkable fulfillment of so many of that holy woman's other predictions, cannot but entitle it to more respect than is usually felt for the revelations of anonymous individuals. The following passage from a Roman letter, meaning a letter from somebody in Rome, to the letter of Brussels seems therefore to be worth quoting. A holy and learned man, the writer says, who died not long since, and was a friend of Anna Maria Taigi, has often told me that the day would come when the Pope, shut up in the Vatican, will find himself girdled as by a circle of iron. He will have lost all human hope, and it will be just then that God will suddenly make a signal display of his mercy. I remember that D. Raphael Natali, who was the spiritual director of Anna Maria Taigi, and who had also died by this time, learned from Anna Maria that Pius IX would sit 27 years on the pontifical throne, and this would occur the following year. From the processes of the same venerable Anna Maria has been extracted the prophecy of the two great chastisements, the one from heaven and the other from earth, the latter which will consist of wars, revolutions, and other calamities being terminated. That from heaven will succeed, which, according to another of her predictions, is explained as follows. Great darkness is to prevail over the whole land for 3 days and nights. It will be so thick that absolutely nothing will be visible, and will be accompanied by pestilence which will chiefly fall on the enemies of religion, although the scourge will not be confined exclusively to them. While this darkness lasts, no light will shine, no fire will have any brightness, and only those who have blessed things, perhaps candles, will be able to see. They are exhorted not to endeavor to scan the heavens curiously during this darkness. For whoever shall go and look out of a window or leave his house, for the purpose of describing what is passing in the firmament, will be immediately struck down. The whole time that this judgment shall last ought to be employed in prayer, and above all in reciting the Holy Rosary, hoping that amid all this fearful trial and humiliation, the Lord shall show mercy to us. The director of this holy woman said in August of 1864, "It is most true that the venerable servant of God announced the 3 days' darkness extending over the whole earth. While it lasts, all windows must be kept closed, all persons must avoid appearing at them, and they ought to recite the Holy Rosary and pray." Anna Maria Taigi foretold that in the 27th year of the reign of Pope Pius IX, the earth would be visited by 3 days of darkness so thick that you could cut it with a knife. The announcement spread the prediction far and wide. Gradually, it traveled from city to city, and for a month little else has been talked about at the corners of the Orthodox Catholic churches. Women rushed from nursery to nursery and terrified the old women and children with the minutest of details. Men repeated it in jest to have it carried away in earnest. the Chicago dealers in wax candles began to discover an immense rush of business. The story was printed by some Catholic newspapers, which gave the story more credence and fueled the panic. In vain, the intelligent few reminded the ignorant multitude that the story was a hoax. The multitude declared that it was not a hoax because they had read it in Catholic newspapers. The demand for the Catholic newspaper articles could not be supplied. Every copy printed was sold like hotcakes, and its prediction proved so perfectly acceptable that news dealers requested its reprint in pamphlet form. Bishop Michael Dominy, the Bishop of Pittsburgh, took the occasion to disabuse the minds of his people who may have placed credence in the prophecy before delivering his sermon. He was interviewed and was asked, "The Church, as I understand, places no credence in her prophecy." "Not in the least," said Bishop Dominy. "She made several revelations, and many good people believed her to be inspired, but the Church does not sanction it at all." "Was the 3 days of darkness one of those you refer to?" "I think not, as a published life of hers contains nothing concerning it." "Your sermon yesterday was then a formal contradiction of the reliability of the prophecy, so far as the Church sanctioning it is concerned?" "Yes, though I did not embody it in the sermon. The announcement was made previous to the delivery of the sermon." Bishop James Frederick Wood of the Philadelphia Diocese found it necessary to dispel the alarm created by a large portion of his people by the publication to the effect that there were to be 3 days of darkness in February, attended by various dreadful phenomena, such as having been predicted by the venerable servant of God, Anna Maria Taigi, who died in Rome in 1837. The bishop issued a circular denying that any such prediction had been made. Then February of 1872 came and went without any 3 days of darkness, and the newspapers stopped talking about the prophecy, but it seemed that everybody is still talking about it now on the internet. So at this point there is still some research to be done. None of the articles that I found provided the name of the individual that wrote the original letter to the Journal of Brussels. It would be nice to have the name of the individual, but it would be great if we could get a copy of the original letter. And I think that it still exists. Here's an image of a website that seems to have the archives of the journal. I have it linked down below, and if anybody knows Flemish, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd check out the archives. It should have appeared on or about October of 1871. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back again within a week with another one. But in the meantime, please check out my Facebook page and my Twitter page. Every day I post additional content that you won't find on this YouTube channel. And also, please pray for the church.
After 3 days in the desert fun, I was looking at a riverbed. And the story it told of a river that flowed made me sad to think it was dead. You see, I've been through the desert on